Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you.
Thank you for that. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Unidentified Secret. Dire Wolf here for our weekly news recap. Not so weekly recently. Yes. Behind Enemy Lines on YouTube, where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized. Alongside me is my unidentified secret co-host and also vice president, Fox Trevize.
Yes, vice president-elect. From the office of the vice president-elect, actually.
Right. I have, of course, I am your current president-elect. I have the same amount of electoral votes as all other candidates. So I am just as legitimately the president as they are. So we've been away for a while. How long has it been?
It's been a bit. So we had Thanksgiving 2 weeks ago, which seems like not as long ago. And then we both had secret, surprising increase in our job duties this week, where we were both working very, very long hours, and we're both very important. So unlike other commentators, we do have day jobs. So
yes, I think that's actually something that's good, is that we aren't driven to by clicks, right? We don't need to have something salacious to have people watch for us to make an income to survive.
Certainly, if we are saying these things just to make money, you're doing a very bad job of it.
Yeah, we're doing a terrible job if our goal was to become rich. We are simply driven to do this because we have opinions and there's things that we feel are important to talk about. And I think you guys are here because you think those are also important things to talk about. But we're not here like CNN and a lot of mainstream media. Their hope for survival is based on getting people to get outraged and click their stuff, right? And they will lie all they can just to maintain, just to survive, right?
Right.
So that's, I guess I feel free of that, because no matter what happens to the show, we go home, we have jobs.
Yes.
We also can't spend as much time working on a show as some other people. Like Tim says, he does it. He does how many hours a day does he works?
You got Tim Pool, who will regularly describe how he works for like 12 hours a day to produce 3 hours of content. Now we pretty typically, I know we say it's supposed to be a 2-hour show on Saturdays, but when we do our Saturday show, we were doing about 3 hours of content per recently. And we're not doing 12 hours of research for it. I mean, maybe combined, but it's, I don't know. I think we have a very efficient way of producing the content that we do.
Plus, we do read articles and watch news shows throughout the week to give us information on what stuff we're going to look into. So I mean, it's not the time we spend researching and writing on the day of the show is not the only stuff we do, but it's definitely doesn't take as long to produce a 3-hour show as some people might let you think.
And other people who produce 3-hour shows, mainly the Daily Wire, we do not try to hawk gold and bed sheets and security systems to you literally every 5 minutes. And same thing with terrestrial radio and satellite radio is. And if you're watching Tucker too, so one of the things that always drove me crazy is you listen to like someone like Hannity on Sirius Satellite Radio or Wilcow, and they have a quote unquote 3-hour show, and Hannity will cite it as a 3-hour show. But if you listen to it, it's got almost 30 minutes of commercials per hour in it. It's ridiculous. You got Tucker. He's got a good 18 minutes worth of commercials per his hour. Ben Shapiro. It's sometimes you gotta fast forward 4 minutes at the beginning of a Ben Shapiro episode to get to where he's not doing advertisements anymore. And then, you've got another 2 minutes before the next 5-minute advertisement comes up. And then if you're on YouTube too, you're also going to get interrupted by YouTube ads. So, we we bring this to you guys, and we're not just raking in the dough like some people are. I mean, it's very clear that for as good as some of their opinions are, people like the Daily Wire and Hannity are really, really just in it for a lot of the money. There's a lot of money to be made there. Not that means that their opinions are invalid on the face of it, but we don't have any of that. We don't have any of that problem of trying to guess what our motives are, because we're clearly not making money at it.
Yeah, we're definitely not saying that they are wrong because of this. It is that we don't have to. We don't have to struggle with those motives. Though, no matter what, like, if someone who's wrong, like 90% of the time, right? It doesn't matter if they've been wrong before. Anytime someone makes a claim, you judge that claim on the merits of that claim itself, not on the person making it. We have a lot of, on both sides of the political spectrum, of someone saying, oh, that person is wrong because look at this, their history, look at their past, look at all the things they've done before. They are wrong entirely about everything. And they will try to debunk a claim, that a specific claim, because of this person's other claims, like saying that someone is wrong about a certain thing they've said because they support the Q conspiracy. Those two things are not connected, right?
Yes.
Take whatever claim that person's making and judge it on its own merits. Anyways, this show is made possible by you guys.
Slowpoke, I did not just call Ben Shapiro a shekel goblin. I'm merely pointing out that when he did his show on Mount Sinai, or at the Temple Mount in Israel, he also did an advertisement for gold. I'm not saying he's a shekel goblin. I'm just saying he was trying to sell gold while on the holiest site in the world for Jews. Just saying.
If I were Jewish, I think that would be offensive.
I'm
not. So
it's potentially stereotypical. I'm not saying it's a stereotype, but it was an unfortunate coincidence.
That said, I do like Ben Shapiro. He does make some good arguments.
And I love gold. So.
In any case, I do hate people always pushing gold, because I don't think that's a wise.
Well, our gold section is later when we're talking about the money system, so it's for that.
We'll get there. Anyways, thank you guys for making the show possible. Special thanks to Kaylet, Orimain, Nathan, Cameron, Tetris Freak, Slowpoke, Thundra Erican, who's female, by the way, so I hear, have not verified, White Lion, and special thank you to Timberwolf for donations and boosting the Discord. That was not a request to verify, just saying I haven't.
I think I'd also, now that we're coming up on what appears to possibly be the end of an era in politics and the beginning of something new. I think we should also just thank all of the Republicans in Congress who did absolutely nothing to make this show possible by sitting there allowing censorship to run rampant across the internet to the point where their followers and their voters are unable to communicate with each other, and they're not allowed to do political advertisements anymore or speak truth. Like they're not allowed to post true news stories now. Yeah, the Senate, one of the Senate chambers, or the Senate committees that was led by the Republicans, one of the Senate committees was censored on Twitter a few weeks ago. So thank you to all of the do-nothing Republicans for absolutely nothing. Thank you for nothing and doing nothing to support this show. It is much unappreciated.
I do find it hilarious. There's been multiple politicians and government bodies that have been censored, and this is happening after they refused to take action for 4 years plus. When they've had the power to take action, they chose not to. And in all that time, people like us have been getting censored and, having our rights violated. And they chose to do nothing. And then they finally start getting riled up when they're getting censored. Fuck you guys. I'm still having to vote for Republicans because of the better of two bad options, but you guys need to do a lot better. Because some of you the Republicans are only slightly better than the Democrats that they're running against.
Slight on that note, though, slight update. My handle that is at the bottom of my avatar is no longer my handle on Twitter. I was removed from Twitter because I committed. I'm not kidding. I'll pull it up later. I committed hate speech against Iran. and the community guidelines that Twitter cited when they banned me, like this wasn't a suspension. I have fully banned off of Twitter with this account. The rules they cited was that it was targeted harassment. I targeted harassment at the whole state of Iran. Are you kidding me? Really?
Okay, so and you know that they don't enforce that when someone insults all of America or all of any other country. It's because Iran is special. It gets special protection from being insulted because it's you.
Yes.
Because you have a right-wing viewpoint. However, people in America can criticize the entire country of America, call us racist, and that's not a problem.
All right. Well, now that we got through all that, what's our first story for the night?
So
more
our
of
first
a discussion. A lot of discussion.
Yeah, we got a bunch of discussion topics today. So the first discussion topic is a general election update. A lot has happened since we last had a show, and we can't go too much in depth into all of the stories. But we do need to give an overview of a lot of the changes in the election run, because as you guys know, there actually hasn't been a determination on who is president yet. We've had the popular vote, but that is not what determines who is president. That is the Electoral College that determines who is president, and Electoral College still has not voted yet, has not met and has not voted, so we do not have an official
been selected yet.
Correct. So, until that happens, and since the presidency is in dispute, or rather the election status is still in dispute, we don't know what the result's going to be. And so we're going to cover some of the updates to that. First update was that Trump's legal team has presented cases in states, Senate hearings, or legislators, cases to the state legislators in 5 different states. So those state legislators are heavily leaning Republican in most states, and they will be the ones choosing the Electoral College electors. And some of them, so Trump and his legal team are trying to convince them to get electors to vote for Trump, despite whatever the popular vote was on election day. Because, and they're basing this off that there's been so much fraud, so many mistakes, so many irregularities that the popular vote was tainted and thus should not be used as a determination of who should win the electors for those states. The Democrats are responding to this by saying that Trump is attempting a coup, which I find hilarious since they literally tried to attempt a coup.
And they even used the military with Vindman. Like they've actually
right.
and the intelligence apparatus. They were using the arms of government that enact violence supposedly against our adversaries. They turned those inward and ran them against the Constitution and against the sitting president, using military assets and intelligence assets in a attempt to create a rogue state within the government to go against Trump. I mean, they've actually already done that. And I got a little spot later on during the COVID update about there's some discussion about martial law. Well, like the Democrats have already initiated martial law. They're just not calling it that. Like the Democrats have already initiated a coup the last 4 years. They just didn't call it that. Although some of them actually did call it that. So it's really more of a branding issue. Like coup and martial law. It's bad branding. You can still do it. Just call it something else.
Right. We had the intelligence agencies and the deep state with many agents working in concert against the president, working with the left-wing media to spy on his campaign, spy on his presidency. We had a bunch of operatives who were put in by Obama, who were working in the White House, who were reporting on Trump to try to hamstring it, and were very effective at hamstringing his presidency. The entire Mueller investigation was an attempt at a coup to remove the president based on what the FBI knew was false information that they had laundered and were using as if it were real to secure illegal.
Actually fabricated on their own.
Right. They put people in jail and tried to destroy people like Flynn. They definitely can have actually attempted a coup, and then they have the gall to attempt to accuse Trump of committing a coup, when what Trump is doing is following the constitutional process for an election. It's not one that's a route that's been used commonly, because yes, it has been the norm that after the popular vote, a candidate will concede and a candidate will accept, and that will be the presumptive president, right? But that isn't actually the process. It is not the AP. It is not the news or the popular vote that determines who is president.
And hilariously, we had some of the media had done reports the last few weeks over that the whole electoral college thing is just a formality. It's just theater, and and people actually do think that, because people don't actually, I guess, somehow going through the public education system for America, you don't learn anything about America. They actually do think, a lot of people actually do think, that the electoral college is just it's just a formality. It's not real. It's a ceremony, basically. But it's not. It's the way that it works. The ceremony in theater is when the media calls it, and we go, oh yeah, ooh ah. That's the theater part of it. That's the part that is just going through the motions. The actual thing that elects the president is still the electoral college as per the Constitution, and people actually don't understand that. It's really amazing.
There is a movement in the states where if a bunch of the states are trying to get together to make it so that they will base the electoral votes off of, they will willingly give up the power of that the legislators in those states have of picking the electors, and give it up to the popular vote. So if they have enough states where they can have enough electoral votes, they would be able to basically make it so the popular vote in the country would determine who is president. The reason why this movement exists is because that's not how it works currently.
Well, and so we might be coming to find out too, stuff like that is obviously not going to be binding, but even just the way the states do select their electors, it is like in Pennsylvania right now, or I think maybe Georgia. There's a few of the states where the governor has created a body or something in the cabinet that approves usually the attorney general will approve the slate of electors. And usually it's just understood which slate is going to go if the election's very clear. But this time it's not. And the Constitution does not say anything about a state's attorney general approving the slate of electors. They say that the state houses get to choose a slate of electors. It doesn't really matter what the state laws are. The Constitution has provided for the state legislatures, and only the state legislatures, to do that. So one of the thoughts is in some of these places is that maybe if Pennsylvania doesn't want to, or if they want to approve and send a Democrat slate, well, if the Pennsylvania House approves and sends a Republican slate, the Constitution would have to decide, the federal government would have to decide which slate they want to pick. It would have to be the one that the House sent, because that's what the Constitution lines out for. But there's all this stuff, I was talking to Dyer about this before the show, there's all of this mechanics of the Constitution and how stuff's supposed to work that's not even just theory, it's actually written down in the Constitution. There's so much of the Constitution that nobody uses in their daily lives, that nobody has any ideas even in there. It's not even a long document. It's I think it's 15 or 16 pages of 8.5 by 11 if you print it out. 8-point font. It's not a long document, but the amount of it that actually affects you day to day is the first 2 or 3 amendments and not a whole lot else. It's really just more of that's why the president's here. It kind of gives you the names of the offices and stuff like that. But there's a whole bunch of it that is describing how the election works that no one's ever read before. And so when this stuff comes up, the media is just well, that's how we've always done it. And it's well, yeah, but the Constitution's right over there. It's not long. It's, it's maybe 5 paragraphs describing the election. And it says that, that's weird. It doesn't say that the media gets to call it. The AP is not the definitive source for who won the election. No, it runs through this process. It's not a long process. It's not a complicated process. It's just nobody's ever read it. And the media would really, really like it if you didn't read it either, and just kept thinking that they're the all-knowing interpreters and dictators of who gets to be president. I remembering the scene out of Animal Farm when the pigs first took over the farm. They wrote up their new rules for how the animals were going to govern themselves up on the barn wall. And over the years, it was about 10 or 15 years after they had taken over, the rules had kind of faded, and a lot of the animals couldn't read them, but they were told what they were. And this horse that was not super bright, but he couldn't read. He's a good character though. He was trying to remember what the words had said because he couldn't read them, but he sort of remembered them. And it was one of the rules was that the animals should never sleep in beds. And the pigs started sleeping in the beds because they're corrupt. And so the horse was like, "Hey, I thought we weren't doing that anymore." And the pigs didn't reread him the correct line. They said, "No. We're allowed to do that. It never said that. You're misremembering it. Don't do that. Don't try and find somebody who can read it for you. We're the ones who know what it said. We're not going to tell you what it really said, and we're not going to encourage you to find out what it said for yourself." But realistically, if it would not be difficult for everyone in America to go through back to the Constitution and just read. We're not the horse that can't read. We can go back and read. It's not a long thing. It's not like these 10,000 page healthcare bills. No, it's like 5 or 8 paragraphs. It take you 8 minutes to read it. And if more people in America did that, maybe the media would not have that much power. Which is pretty crazy that the media exercises so much power, and the thread that could sever all of that is just 15 minutes of every American reading the Constitution. It's pretty thin ice they're skating on there.
So on that topic of not understanding the process, a lot of people on both sides right now are thinking that Trump's primary avenue to challenging the fraud and of the election and not overturning because nothing's been determined, but winning over Biden is the legal challenges he's making against, and people on his behalf, I guess, are making against fraud and misconduct in these different states, right? They think that these legal cases going to the Supreme Court will lead to the Supreme Court giving Trump the presidency. That's actually not the avenue. It kind of bolsters his argument towards the Senate, to the legislators of these different states. But his primary avenue is following the Constitution to convince the legislators of these states to pick electors that will vote for him. That is the primary avenue. The legal cases will not result in the Supreme Court saying Trump is now president. They may result in helping to enforce the eventual outcome of whatever the legislators determine, whatever laws they pass, whatever decisions they make. The Supreme Court can enforce that by taking up cases towards that ends. But there's a misconception that a lot of people are saying is they're pinning their hopes on the Supreme Court decision, and that's not going to be it.
Well, yeah, it's kind of this, it's in the name, right? Supreme Court, right? So it must be reigning supreme. But there is rules governing that, and it's not just going to be, we couldn't decide on Pennsylvania, so the Supreme Court just gets to decide everything. No, it doesn't work like that. But what they could do is these challenges in the various states. We've got Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia right now. You got some cases that are trying to say, we need to halt certification, stuff like that. And the Supreme Court could help along those cases, though they seem to not be doing that, which, I think that's what we had talked about last time we did a show, was that this idea that the Supreme Court, because you would need the conservatives on the Supreme Court to become activists, and they're specifically not activists. Like,
we talk about that off air,
yes.
Don't we?
No, I think we talked about it on air. It's just kind of this idea, like, Alito or no, Thomas is going to get back at Biden for, raking through the mud all those years ago, and Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, they just got raked through the coals by Kamala, and they're gonna this is their chance to get back at him. Well, they're not, conservatives don't do that. I mean, I guess maybe it'd be funny.
You don't want them to do
if
that.
They did, yeah. But
the reason why we wanted them to. The reason why we wanted justices like them is because they would not overstep their authority. They would act as judges, and also because of they are that way, they're not going to want to legislate from the bench. That's not what we want, right? They're not going to make a change via a court case. That's not their role. They don't want to be picking the president from a court ruling. That's not their role, and it'd be a terrible precedent.
To be honest, I'll disagree with you a little bit. I honestly at this point I don't care. If the Supreme Court just dictated and decided that Trump was going to be president for the next 4 years, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Now, what I was saying earlier is they won't do that. There's nothing to indicate in any of their character or their precedent that they would ever do anything like that, because they never have, and they got elected on the fact that they never would. So I think I would accept it if they did. I just think the probability of that happening. Well, I think it's more likely that Trump just wins on his own than the Supreme Court just gives it to him.
Okay, so the things we wanted in a justice, which is what they are, someone who's a textualist, who's originalist, or either way, who's going by what the Constitution says or what was intended. That would not lead to someone who would try to determine who the presidency is from a court ruling. That they aren't what we've asked for. They aren't what they were. They aren't the type of people that were put into office. So we can't expect them to act differently. And I'm saying I want someone who is an originalist, who wouldn't do that, right? Because if they were willing to do that, they would be willing to legislate from the bench in other ways.
Yeah. Well, this show's not about what we were looking for in a Supreme Court justice. This show's about what will the ones actually currently elected, what will they do? And they're not going to do this.
That's what I'm saying. Are they not the kind of justices that you'd want rather than what the Democrats?
Well, they are what we wanted. We went over that when they were elected, and it's right. That's one of the whole points of the Supreme Court. It's supposed to be slow moving. That's not it's not susceptible to the whims of the moment. And so back in the calmer days, we picked good principled justices, and in the current crisis, and I wish that they would do something, but I know that they won't, because that's not what we were thinking at the time when we picked them. Now the left will do the opposite, though. They always pick somebody who will be riding with the whims of the moment.
Just because we're in a crisis, we shouldn't be wishing that our Supreme Court justices were legislating from the bench. We're activists. We shouldn't want that, even though we want Trump to be president.
I'm not principled to the point where I'm willing to, if I've got to trade the Supreme Court being a little more corrupt than they already are, for the rest of the country, the entire existence of the United States, I'll make that trade. I'm not above that.
I don't think we're at that point, though.
I'll agree to disagree with you on that one. I wish that they would. I
mean, you break it once and it's broken for the rest of the time.
It's broken, dude. They passed through Obamacare. You had what the heck's his name actually rewrote Obamacare specifically so that it would run through. They've had all kinds of crazy legislate from the bench moments over the last 20 years.
It's also the face of the court has also changed in the last 4 years.
Yeah,
has it not? So it's not the same court that did that.
Yes, as Trevor is pointing out, they literally gave half of the entire state to half of the state at least. Yeah, they gave, so the Supreme Court approved the transfer of half the state of Oklahoma to the Native Americans who once lived there. It's
an amalgamation of tribes that did, some of which had no claim whatsoever to any part of the state, and the other ones did not have. It was because of a clerical error. Because of a fucking clerical error. They're willing to give up a half a state.
Well, and this kind of gets into kind of a more interesting discussion that a lot of people are having to have with themselves right now. Is that at what point are your principles in the way of you being able to propagate your principles? So, now that's not to say, it's you got to be navigated very carefully. It's not to say, well, I need to do this, so I'm just gonna give up all my principles for the day so I can get that done. No. It's not something you should be giving up easy. But there is a trade-off between being your highest level of your highest level of self-actualization and like, oh, I'm the most principled person ever, right as they march you into the gas chambers. Like that doesn't help anybody if you're so principled and immobile that you allow yourself to be destroyed. If we have to be a little flexible on that stuff to get through this, we will have to pick up the pieces on the other side, but at least there'll be pieces to pick up. And I think we all know that there's going to be a Biden presidency is imminent. 4 years of that's going to be rather damaging. There's not going to be a lot of pieces to pick back up. He will break stuff so badly it can't be put back together. A lot of people are saying, well, as long as Republicans get the Senate, which we're not even sure about that anymore. As long as the Republicans get the Senate, it's fine. We'll just have a deadlock for 4 years or 2 years until the midterms, and then we'll figure it out in the midterms. No. Especially under Obama, but certainly under the last, basically ever since World War II, you have had just this exponential growth of the executive branch. There is so many things Obama was able to do with no congressional approval whatsoever because he was in control of all the agencies. And all those agencies have been authorized to just create regulations with the force of law. Biden and, mostly Kamala will be in charge of all of that. Just because they don't need the Senate, they don't need the House. Especially under Obama, they kind of finished it off. The executive branch really no longer requires the legislature anymore. They may be due for just to kind of keep up appearances, but there's a lot that a Biden administration could do without the Senate. So that it's already a danger even if we keep the Senate. So that's what I'm saying. The amount of stuff that they're going to be able to do in 4 years, I am willing to be flexible on breaking the Supreme Court to stop that. But
I think that you break the Supreme Court, you're breaking the Supreme Court that would be able to stop a Biden administration from doing unconstitutional things. You're breaking it permanently. I don't think that this is a place where you give up your principles, but we'll have to agree to disagree. I think that would only make the problem that much worse because then you have someone else, different politicians in Democrat justices in. They now have that precedent. They have that power. I think we have broken the country even worse, and we have not worked towards fixing it.
No, I'll keep disagreeing with you on that. So to put it in real terms,
you already have. We're going to keep moving on. We both have made good arguments towards either side, but I think we have a lot more show to go through. So. Election updates. You already made points. You
haven't even got to the election updates yet. I thought you'd already read through all
we
that.
Did the first bullet point. Oh first bullet point. So the second bullet point in the election update is that the Michigan House Oversight Committee is holding hearings on election fraud. The left-wing media has been running attacks on the hearings and the people who have been testifying. And again, like I talked before, instead of actually addressing the evidence being provided, they're not doing that. They're just attacking the people's history. So anytime they have someone who is testifying at these hearings, instead of actually addressing the evidence they're presenting of fraud, and there is very, very convincing evidence of fraud, such as actual video evidence of them pulling out votes, at first sending the poll watchers home, and then pulling out a bunch of boxes of ballots and running them with no one watching. And in the video, it appears as though they're running those votes multiple times with no one watching. And the people who are counting those votes through the machine are the same people who kicked out the poll watchers. That alone is fraud because they're not supposed to be doing that without the poll watchers there. Right. But then they have the probability for just one machine and the time that they're there to process thousands of votes, and they calculate that the number of votes that appears in the video to have been likely counted is about the amount that was added to Biden's count after the poll after that time period.
Yeah, so you've had some interesting analysis. Now that we're a little ways out, and we've debunked a few of those analyses, but one of them I saw Crowder was bringing up that I think was actually pretty well sourced, because it wasn't looking at it was just looking at the end numbers, which the end numbers are going to be correct. It doesn't have to do with like timing or anything like that. Basically in the swing states, you have Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. If you take out the big cities in those states, Philadelphia, Detroit, and then I forget which one was a big city in Wisconsin, but Trump only lost hard in those three big cities, and those three cities flipped the state. And those three cities also, the amount that Biden won by, it can all be lined up with it. All those extra votes came in during those weird hours between 4 and 6 a.m. After election night. You saw that in Wisconsin had that crazy jump where it was, the little S curve, and then right at the end it just jumps straight up. We saw similar things in Detroit and Philadelphia. And so it's just strange that it wasn't the whole state that he lost. It was just these cities that he lost. And he only lost in those cities after the hours after people were sent home between 4 and 6 a.m. And that's when those votes rolled in after it looked like he was going to win those cities or not lose them by so much that he would lose the state. All of a sudden, at the exact same time in all three cities, all those votes roll in. So strange. It's almost like somebody planned it.
Even if you're going to make the argument that the mail-in votes would have been skewed towards Biden, they were not skewed 100% to zero. A number of Republicans who voted via mail-in was actually there was like 30% in some states where there were Republican versus Democrat. So you would expect there to have been votes from Republicans as well, but they were all for Biden. So it would be very, very possible for them to have the collection of mail-in ballots, because a bunch of ballots were sent to people whether they wanted them or not, collecting of those ballots and submitting them. They also have found lots and lots of evidence in these states of dead people voting in states where they do not live, where they are not the resident of, people voting with fake addresses and without signatures. So, and we're not talking about tens to 20 to 30,000 each of those categories, right? So there's enough information to say that there's a lot of votes that should not have been counted, that currently have been counted. If they weren't counted, Trump may have won by a lot, not just one, but won by a sizable margin. And if it is more than worthy of further investigation. So there's also a video of the person who was doing the after hours counting without any supervision. That person also is on another video is seen as pocketing one of the thumb drives that were likely holding votes.
So we got a lot of there's a lot of evidence floating around out there. There's kind of a difference between evidence and proof. So evidence can just be, right, hey, there's a lot of stories out there that counts as evidence. Again, just because there's evidence of something doesn't mean that it happened. Like if there's evidence of a murder or evidence that somebody was present at a murder, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were the murderer. Same thing with this. Right. There could be evidence that could be explained away, but there's more and more of it piling up that's not being explained away. Though you have a lot of people who are taking this evidence without the proof. Again, there's a slight distinction there. Don't get too crazy. Don't freak out on me just yet. But you got a lot of people who are taking this evidence where you got a lot of circumstantial stuff here, and they're ready. They're talking about military coups and martial law and civil wars and all this stuff. You got you got Tucker asking some really basic questions last week of Sidney Powell. who
reasonable questions,
really, really reasonable questions. Like, hey, can we get some, some examples of like what evidence, what proof do you have of this stuff that's going on? Because you're making a lot of really lofty claims in the media. And Tucker got torn apart by the right. Crowder's going to be really embarrassed about this coming up, but he had like a half-hour segment just ripping Tucker to shreds, not on what Tucker had done last week, but on trying to smear Tucker's character, which is very not great for Crowder to have done that.
A very Democrat strategy.
Yes, yeah. And so he wasn't actually going after the substance of what Tucker did last week. He was going after smearing Tucker's past and saying, well, because Tucker has a checkered past, he's not a reasonable person now, which might be true, but it doesn't get at the point of the evidence. So you've got Tucker, and a lot of us are saying like, hey, man, Sidney Powell's making some crazy claims, and she's not backing it up with proof or explaining it to the public. She's just saying, I got all this evidence, and Trump needs to, she actually called for this, Trump needs to declare martial law. And she's just saying, well, I've got the evidence, so Trump should declare martial law. And it's like, hey, can I see that evidence before I decide to go start polishing off my rifle and be okay that Trump declared martial law? I would like to at least see some proof. I understand that you've got a lot of emotion and fervor behind that, but I'm not seeing any proof. And you got people like Crowder, who's kind of spearheading that movement on the right now, where he's like, well, she can't tell it to the public because that sort of stuff, you need to save it for the courtroom. You don't want to put it out in public before it gets through the proper proceedings in the courtroom, which I understand. And I agree with that if you've got good evidence, you don't broadcast it to the media before the trial. You want to keep your powder dry and save it for when it matters in the courtroom. But that said, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it where you're not making public your evidence and your proof, and you're also calling for actual civil war and martial law to be declared over this evidence that you're not sharing. It's one or the other. Either you can save it for the courtroom or you can show it and call for martial law. You can't do both, though. And it is extremely unreasonable for people to be upset when I've got basic questions about the evidence. That's what the left does. The left, you're not allowed to ask questions on the left. You get torn to shreds. You just have to receive the edicts, the gospel from your hires, and you just got to take that. You can't ask any questions about it. And if you do ask questions about it, the left will destroy you. The right isn't supposed to be like that. You're supposed to be able to ask questions on the right, and I think that it's very reasonable that if somebody is calling for something as extreme as martial law and civil war, I think it's rather reasonable to say, like, okay, that's an interesting request. Can I see what evidence you have that backs that up? It's extremely reasonable to ask that, and I'm not seeing that.
You should trust someone who will take a reasonable, open-minded, critical view of information and only present what they actually know to be true. If someone's reporting news to you, it's only you want that person to be like, okay, I can validate this. This is what I know to be true. Otherwise, these are the claims that are being made that I cannot validate. That's an honest reporting of the news. And that's what Tucker's trying to do. We want people to be like that, where we don't just listen and believe, because that's not someone who's reporting the news. That's someone who's just repeating the party line. And we're not willing to do that. And you guys shouldn't do that either. You should, in your own life, take information and view it critically. As an example, I saw a video that was being reported by a right-wing person saying, hey, these are a bunch of desktop towers that are on a pallet being loaded onto a truck. And they presented this video that showed what looked like a pallet of desktop computers being put onto a truck. And they went on to say, these are voting machines being sent off to have the information on them erased. And it was one of the disputed states. And my response is, where can I please have some information validating that these are indeed election computers? Because I can't tell, and also they don't look like any kind of the voting machines I've seen. And where this video doesn't show me in any way that these are being taken off to be deleted. For all I know, this could be a Dell computer plant making a delivery. I don't know from this video, and I need evidence before I can believe it.
Now, do I feel like they stole the election? Absolutely. I feel like they did. I think that there's a lot. Do I believe that a lot of the circumstantial evidence is true? Yeah, I believe it, but I can't sit here and tell you guys, yeah, it's definitive enough to go, you know, we're gonna go to war over this is what people are calling for. I need a little more solid evidence than that before I'm willing to go to war over this. So I need quite a bit though. Maybe a few less donuts too. But well, we have a lot of claims out there that I think could be provable. Obviously, we need some investigations, and the fact that there's not been more investigations is ridiculous. Honestly, if you are in one of these states, go find a ballot, draw a goddamn noose on it, and tape it to the door of your election office. You will have 15 FBI agents airdropped within the next half hour into your location. You go put a noose on yourself and walk around with a Subway sandwich. You'll get 30 of them.
Put bacon on a ballot and put it at a mosque.
Yes. No, I honestly, like, the number of FBI agents that they've committed to this, I think it's been like 3, and I know at least 2 of them are on tape coercing a witness, trying to get him to misremember what had happened. And so, not joking. If you're in one of these states and you're part of the election office, draw a fucking noose on it and get the FBI there. But so some of the stuff that I think that could be provable, I just keep hearing the story over and over again about there's some ballots that were flat, so they were never folded to be put into an envelope, and it looks like the dots were perfectly printed on there. They weren't drawn in by hand. It looks like they came out of a printer. I've heard that story over and over and over again for the last 3 weeks. I've not seen any pictures of these Where are they? If we have these stories of them, they should be out there somewhere. And I think maybe they even are. I believe that they would be out there somewhere. But why can't we go out there and find them? That would be the proof to go along with this evidence or the story, the circumstance. It would turn it into solid, concrete example of this is where the fraud's at.
Those claims came from people making affidavits that they were true, but we haven't seen the physical evidence yet.
Yeah, so there's a lot of emphasis being placed on these affidavits because, well, an affidavit is, it's you go to jail if you're lying on it, and that's I guess. I know the Democrats aren't real worried about that. Certainly, I don't know. I guess they're great, but if they're saying something that can be proven, I would like the actual proof to go along with it. Another thing would be these ballots going through the machine multiple times. Somebody brought up that, well, if you were running the same batch over and over again, what you should see is logs in the database that, if there was 500 Biden votes and 100 Trump votes, then you should see in the database, 3 times in a row, plus 500 for Biden, plus 100 for Trump. When the reality of a database entry, you would expect it to be more randomized. But if you saw 3 of the exact same entry, one after another, then that would be some indication that happened. So that would be something where you could prove that allegation. There's some other stuff with the way these thumb drives work and all that stuff that we could prove. These machines that were connected to the internet, we're being told that a lot of these voting machines were connected to the internet, which is illegal. Where's the picture? People are walking around all day. You got all these poll watchers out there. Now I know that these poll watchers on the Republican side, they were told that they couldn't watch some stuff. Some of them got videos of being pushed away, and those went viral on Twitter. But where's the pictures on someone's smartphone? Just snap a picture of these internet cable, the Ethernet cables running off to the wall and getting plugged into a wall jack. Like, there is a lot of claims, and I could probably keep going on and on and on. There's a lot of claims being made, and I think that a lot of them are true. I would really like to see some evidence for it, or some proof. I would like to see some proof for it. I think that these are things that could be proven. Now, things that couldn't be proven is like that there was some kind of broad conspiracy amongst the Democrats between all these cities. I certainly believe that that's true, but finding proof on that is going to be a little bit more difficult. But there's some specific claims that could be there's concrete proof somewhere. And we're still not seeing that, and it's really, really disappointing that instead of telling the American people, "Hey, we're going to this is our claim," if it's true, we should expect to find this, and this is what we're doing to go find it. That would be great. And then give us some progress updates as they're going to go find them. But they're just saying like, hey, we're just claiming this is true. Now go to war. That's what the left does. That's what the left did all summer, was these claims that are provably false, that police are hunting down black people by the thousands every year. And that was just, you weren't even allowed to ask the question, like, hey, where's the, is that true? You're not even allowed to ask that. And they wanted you to burn down the country over that. No, I don't want to play
being
that
consistent.
Game.
Yeah, we're being consistent. So when the Democrats claimed that Trump had colluded, when they claim that police officers are murdering people, we say, show us the evidence of this. You have provided us none. No proof. We're open to changing our minds if you can show us the information. We don't want to just believe an accusation. Someone says that Kavanaugh raped him 6 years ago. Okay, well, not 6 years ago, but whatever. 40 years ago.
She did that. Yeah, I think she signed some affidavits there.
Yeah, she signed affidavits. Affidavits does not prove something.
So just again, like we were talking about principles earlier. So like a principle I might have would be, if we did go through with this, whatever, you guys can kind of fill in the blanks there. 20 years from now, I have some, probably not my kid, ask me like, hey, like why did you have to, do all those bad things to the Democrats back then when you guys kind of retook over the country? Like what convinced you that you needed to take part in a revolution where, things happen on both sides and, trying to be sensitive for YouTube here. I don't want to say like, oh yeah, like I took up arms against my fellow American just because Sidney Powell had a great press conference one day. No. That's not good enough. Maybe in the moment that gets you that fervor and that fire, but it is not. We have not seen enough. I wish we had. We've not seen enough for me to say, oh yeah, like I would be confident enough to say, that is the proof I needed that I could go ahead and start doing this stuff. No. We're not even anywhere close to that. And for me to be asking questions and to be told from the right, which it's crazy because Crowder is way more right than I am, right wing than I am. And we're getting shouted from the right things that I would expect to be hearing from the left about not being allowed to ask questions. That's just nuts.
Yeah, do we really want to start the process of our country being determined by violence, the who is in charge? Because that the whole point of our country is that we don't have that kind of system, and we would be starting that.
Well, and here's the thing: is if you did find that proof for these things, if you found the concrete proof for these things, you wouldn't need to have violence; it would get settled off in the courts. Yeah. And so the idea that they would be calling for violence on this is like this again, the Sidney Powells of the world. The idea that they would be calling for violence instead of just saying, well, we know that the evidence is out there and we're going to go find it and then we'll just have it settled in court because we'll have concrete proof, not just, unfortunately, the affidavits are a lot of hearsay, unfortunately, but if they could do that and get it done in the courts, they wouldn't need to be calling for the violence. And I really don't like where this is going. You also have kind of a side note. You've got Sidney Powell and was it Lynn Wood, who are both calling for Republicans to boycott the Georgia Senate race, a runoff,
that's terrible.
Which is absolutely insane. And it's also important to remember, an interesting tidbit. You guys know how I feel about walkaway Democrats. Well, as it turns out, Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell are walkaway Democrats. So, one of the reasons why I've said over and over and over again, and I've been proven right every single example we've come across. Anytime you find a walkaway Democrat, they're just pending dangerous or they've done something dangerous. Right now, Lynn Wood, just because he knew to pull his hand away from the hot stove, and he was a Democrat as recently as 2018, and now he's quote unquote on the right fighting for Trump, and he's doing it by saying, hey, telling Republicans just to give up the Senate. Same thing with Sidney Powell. She's out there again calling for Republicans to be violent on hearsay and also telling them to abandon the election process. That's what happens when you have walkaway Democrats who have no pre-existing principles. As they become, quote unquote, on the right or conservatives or liberal, whatever, and they just start flailing and not understanding what it means to be on the right. They don't understand. They still act in the same way that they did on the left, where they will take up arms and be violent over a rumor. And that's what the left does. The left will get violent over a rumor. And you've got these walkaways telling Republicans, you guys need to get violent over rumors. And then you're not allowed to ask any questions. And, it's Jesus.
The problem with the walkaways is they don't disagree with the tactics. They just changed sides. They don't actually have principles for which they're basing their opinions on. They will give up they don't give up principles. They're not making decisions based on principles. They're still making tribalistic arguments and still trying to just fight to be on the winning side. So they will do the exact same things that were wrong. They will do censorship. They will use violence. They will advocate for both those things because that's what that's the same stuff they would do on the left. They just change what side they're fighting for, and that's a problem. That's why they're dangerous. And they can also flip back to the left when it becomes advantageous for them, because they just want to be on the winning side and protected. It is a self-preservation tactic they're doing. They're not actually making any kind of decisions on a principled level. They're willing to give up any kind of principal position they're even faking to have just to be on the winning side. So other things, Trump has come out and said he's pardoning Flynn. Actually, he actually has officially pardoned Flynn. So one on the side note about Flynn is you guys know that he was unfairly prosecuted for related to Trump-Russia collusion. He had a conversation as his role in the Trump admin with a Russian official. And when asked at the White House in an informal meeting, he had remembered incorrectly, but he didn't think it was being actually interrogated. He's giving an official statement.
By the way, there was an update to that story as well. So it was new information. I think it was early this week it broke. So that informal meeting in the White House, the FBI agent that talked to Flynn, he was using a alias when he did it. He made up a fake identity to go talk to Flynn as a simulated FBI agent. So it wasn't. He was like that. That was like. I mean, that's what you do in a spy operation. That's what you do in a a psyops operation. Is you create. You create an identity for somebody, you create an alias for them, and they go into the White House undercover. The FBI sent in an agent undercover to the White House. It's nuts.
Yeah. So they basically tricked him into a false perjury thing. He wasn't giving an official statement on anything. And anyway, so they destroyed this guy's life, threatened to go after his kids. Made him lose basically everything he has. Made him made him lose his home, and this is all just political punishment. Going after Trump by going after him and trying to get him to lie about Trump. That was the real play. Was they were putting pressure on him, turning the screws on him, and threatening to go after his family so that he would lie about Trump, so they could have some sort of evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. And Flynn refused to do that, and he suffered because of it. And now the judge was the FBI gave up the case because they had nothing on him, but the judge refused to let the prosecution give up the case, which is I've never heard of that before. I don't know I know I'm not a lawyer, but we do look into a lot of legal cases for research.
Well, that would mean that the judge had become the prosecutor, because if the prosecutor was no longer willing to prosecute the case, then the only other person in that equation is the judge, and so that would be the judge being the prosecutor and the judge, which is a little
exactly.
A little strange.
That's not how that works. So basically, the judge has, who was an Obama appointee, has left the case in limbo up to now, up to the point where he was pardoned, because he was hoping on waiting out the Trump admin. And then when Biden got in, continuing the prosecution and hoping to put Flynn in jail for not committing a crime, because if it was a crime for Flynn to discuss the future relations with the Trump admin after Trump had won the election, then Biden going and doing the same thing with a bunch of countries and setting the groundwork for his possible presidency would also be a crime.
Yeah,
right?
you actually had I think it was who's the guy who's run the CIA? Brennan? No, it was the other one.
Comey?
No, that's the FBI.
That's the FBI. Sorry.
No, I can't remember. Is one of them. One of the agents. I can't fucking remember his name. It wasn't Clapper. It was the other one. He just made a public statement to Iran that Iran needs to wait out the Trump administration because they'll have a better deal with Biden, which is exactly what Flynn did with Russia. And Flynn was just like, hey, like, let's settle down for 4 weeks. I know Obama's putting a sanction on you guys. Just settle down for 4 weeks. We'll talk about it later. And you just had the exact same thing from the Biden administration to Iran.
Yeah.
And I really love this idea of that the Biden administration is saying, or the office of the president-elect, I guess, they're saying, well, the Trump administration, they're making it really difficult for us to do the transition. Oh, really, Biden? Oh, really? Tell me about how difficult you are making stuff during the transition. And you even had Obama referencing that too, saying, well, the Trump administration is making it really difficult for the transition. We gave a really cordial transition and stuff like that. And really, you launched, you weaponized the FBI and the CIA against the Trump administration. You spied on the campaign. You prosecuted illegal spying, illegal FISA activity to prosecute Flynn and Carter Page and run through all of this stuff and just laying all these traps that led to 4 years of fake scandal after fake scandal. The Russian collusion got debunked, and they went to Ukraine, then they went back to Russia. They had all these things that they set up, and Obama and Biden specifically set that up and planned that. We now know that from all the information that's been either investigated or leaked out.
Idea to use the what do you call it, act?
It might be John Brennan. I think John Brennan's who I'm thinking for. Thanks, Timberwolf. Go ahead.
So it was Biden who suggested the specific act that it makes it unlawful for someone to be a non-appointed government representative who is doing foreign policy for the United States. What act is that? God damn it, whatever. That act, which has never been used to prosecute anybody, and definitely does not apply to someone who is a representative of the president who's incomings. What was that? Hatch Act?
Yeah, it's not important what it did. It doesn't matter. It
doesn't matter. It didn't apply here. It wasn't what he did wasn't a crime.
Logan Act.
It was Biden who suggested using the Hatch Act.
Logan Act. No, thank you, YouTube.
Logan.
We're really great at this show. Like we said, we're not doing it for money, obviously.
We hadn't researched the exact point because I didn't know where our conversation was going to go.
Yeah, this is going to be like this is like entirely freeform tonight.
Also, another point about the election update and the direction of the how it might go. Just 40 states are currently social media had a big impact on affecting the election. It is obvious. They censored actual government officials. They censored Trump. They've censored Trump supporters to avoid the truth coming out, to avoid conversations about Biden's misdeeds, to avoid by fact checking incorrectly information to make large swaths of America believe lies. They have definitely controlled the information we have available to us to our detriment. And 40 states legislators are suing Mark Zuckerberg for political censorship. That's a current case ongoing, but it's a little too late. You had a lot, like not even just the Trump admin. I mean, this has been going on for a long time, but definitely in the last 4 years, you should get off your asses and done something about this before now. But now, as they're about to have a high possibility of a Biden administration where nothing will happen, they chose this moment to try to finally take some action. You guys are feckless.
I heard normally out of everybody I listen to, I would say Will Cow is probably one of the top ones who's usually never wrong about something. But he did say something. It's kind of going along the lines that you were going over just now, where he was saying, there's the Republicans are so completely useless. We need to be getting, more actual Republicans in there and getting, he does kind of see the appeal of primarying these people out, or, a little bit of the appeal of boycotting an election, because, it's just we're re-electing these Republicans that don't do anything. But then he took it a step further and said, we need more Ted Cruz's. Imagine if we had 30 Ted Cruz's in the Senate, 50 Ted Cruz's in the Senate. I was like, wow, that'd be a whole lot of fucking nothing getting done. Be a whole lot of finger pointing at Facebook and nothing. A whole lot of finger pointing at Twitter and nothing. It'd be a lot of great sound bites. I'm sure all 50 of them would make a lot of money off of their book deals. But there would be absolutely nothing getting done. And that's another problem is that even the ones that look like they're doing stuff, that's just in the media. They're not actually doing stuff where it counts.
Not just words.
You've got
actions.
You know what's one of the most disappointing ones is we were just talking about before the show was Dan Crenshaw. If you look at the committees that Dan Crenshaw is on, they're like the most useless committees. Like, he's not on any good committees. Now that's probably because the leadership won't appoint him to it, but it's still you have all these people out there. All these Republicans.
He has great commercials, right?
He's great. And you had him playing footsie with Red Flag last year. But you got even the ones that are supposedly good, like they still don't do anything. It's funny because it's almost like the way like Ted Cruz will get stuff done get stuff done for him is that he's just the first one on the media to say that all the other Republicans don't do anything. He's not doing anything either, but because he was out there to say it first, well, it's like, yeah, man, I'm with Ted Cruz. He's yelling at all the other Republicans not doing anything. And Ted Cruz is like, yeah, they're not doing anything. Don't mind me. I'm just yelling at them. I'm not actually doing anything either. But, we're on the same team. I'm like you. Whereas if you just look at their voting records and the bills that they're putting forward, it'd be really hard to distinguish a Ted Cruz from really any of the other ones, to be honest.
Being a good orator and being verbose and making good arguments, that doesn't make you effective. I hope you guys realize.
Again, Ted Cruz will light someone on fire in a hearing, but after that hearing, he goes back to writing his book. Uh-oh. We've lost Dyer. Is Dyer back? Dyer? All right. Technical difficulties here. Please stand by. Direwolf, why did you leave? He's doing this on purpose. All right, we're going to call him back. Please stand by. As you guys can tell, we very professional audio setup we have here. Well, looks like I'm doing the rest of the show possibly on my own. Dyer, where did you go? Yo. Alrighty. So yes, Star Shadow is correct. That is the most likely reason. It's true because it's correct. But yes, back to the wait, what are you doing, Dire Wolf? I know it doesn't help you guys for me having half conversations with him, but we'll just try and get him back online here. What the fuck? He declined the call. He just doesn't want to talk to you guys anymore. He is so fed up talking about Ted Cruz. He was just done with the show. He rage quit the show because Ted Cruz is so weak and feckless. But no, just back to that is, I think we've talked about that enough. But even the Republicans that are quote unquote the thought leaders, they are the legislative leaders. They aren't leading on the committees. They'll do a lot of yelling, and we got one of the best examples of this is the obvious violations of the FISA courts during the Trump campaign when they were spying. As there is, again, the proof and the evidence. There's proof proof that they lied about these FISA courts. We have the FISA documents. We have where they changed. He's trying to call back. We have where they changed information. We have all of that stuff. We have all of that proof. And so the Republicans will sit there and hear this proof that the FISA court is being used for illegal spying. They'll hear it all, and they'll get really upset in the hearing. And then a week later, they'll prove the FISA court to get reapproved. They'll prove it for reauthorization after they just yelled and ranted that, how could we possibly trust the FISA courts now? You've ruined the trust, and they'll get all excited, and they'll do the media circuit. They'll go on Crowder, they'll go on Tucker, they'll go on Hannity. They'll talk everywhere. They'll put out a book about how awful the FISA courts are, and they'll have all these great viral clips of them lighting on fire people from the FBI and these Senate hearings and these House hearings, all that stuff. And then when it comes to the vote, yeah, I'll reapprove authorization for the FISA courts. So.
All that said, I'm not saying we should stop voting for Republicans, because we still have these currently, this is exact moment, 2 options, and one is clearly better than the other. However, moving forward, we need to pressure those Republicans to do the right thing, and also look for other candidates to primary them if they refuse to do the right thing. Right?
Yep.
All right. So sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but I had to change my internet. So the next topic or category of discussion is COVID updates, and there are a lot of those as well. Like all that entire first part of the show, which was over an hour, was just updates about the election.
And COVID updates will probably be the last segment of the show.
Oh, are we moving past it then?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how quickly we get through it.
I'll try to go a little faster on these topics then.
I'll let you lead.
All right, so the first one is we have a lot of new lockdowns as the infection rate goes up, but the death rate doesn't. The Democrats are scaremongering. Just a recap. The people are getting infected after the lockdown because we expected that the disease, it's very much like a cold or flu, will spread and people get infected. The problem is that's not the measure for the severity of the problem. The measure is, are we having a high death rate? And we're not. The death rate actually has gone down drastically from where it was. So people keep saying, oh, look how many people are getting infected. Be scared of all these infections. No, we should be scared of if we don't have the medical ability to deal with the infections. And if people are actually getting severely ill and not being treated, which that's not the case, they have the ability to do so. Now, in Democrat states and cities, they have been instituting new lockdowns, and people have been rebelling against it because the first lockdown was extremely hazardous to our economy and to the lifeblood of our country, small businesses. A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people have had their businesses shut down permanently. The first lockdown caused the loss of nearly 100,000 small businesses being shut down. That's 97,000.
Is it 1 in 3 or 2 in 3?
60%.
Yep.
So almost 2 in 3. And 60% was 60% was how many were permanently closed. Meaning, according to a report from Yelp in earlier this year, said that 60% of those that were closed were being closed permanently. So that's just the first lockdown. They're planning on doing it again. Biden, of course, he advocated for a federal lockdown, which, of course, would be completely senseless because not each state, even if you're going to argue that your state has a problem that requires a lockdown, which the CDC, the World Health Organization says should be a last-ditch effort for a severe case, not your first go-to for stopping the spread of a disease. Even if you're going to argue that your state needs it, not every state has the same issues. Many of the states in the United States have a reduction in cases and a very, very low death rate, meaning to lock them down would be completely senseless. I think locking down any of the states is senseless, but it would be even more senseless for them to do it. But people are rebelling against these lockdowns because they are looking at losing whatever they have left, losing it. People are committing suicide at high rates. People are their families are literally starving because they can't work and buy food. And there's also the problem of the supply chain for food and supplies being disrupted and not being available in some places.
They can just go to the French Laundry. There's plenty of food there.
That's not how that works.
Okay.
In California, Governor Gavin Newsom, for some reason I put the number 2 at the beginning of it on the script. I don't know why. He instituted a curfew for roughly 94% of Californians, which was initially going to be 37 million people, but ended up being about 9 million.
And that state needs to do what my state did. My governor instituted a curfew 2 weeks ago, and 1 week ago, our state... What are you doing? What did you just...
I was rubbing my face.
You just blew your nose on the microphone. Stop.
Rubbing the stubble on my face.
That is the worst sound I've ever heard. Stop it. It's awful. My governor instituted a curfew, and then the House immediately issued a recall. They're trying to impeach the governor almost immediately after he instituted a curfew. So that's what California needs to do. They won't ever do it, though.
Actually, on that topic, so I'll get to that in a second. So he did a curfew. It's supposed to end on the 21st of December, but just like the first lockdown, I bet you it gets extended. What do you want to bet? I'll bet you $5. It gets extended past December 21st.
Yeah.
No Christmas for you in California. Santa Claus is dead.
Does anybody in California celebrate Christmas?
I don't know. I mean, they probably just celebrate, obese men, not necessarily Santa Claus. So
Bear Claus.
As long as you put a wig on it, it's okay. Yeah. So many California county sheriffs have responded with public statements in some of the biggest counties, but majority of the sheriffs in California have said that they will not enforce the curfews or the lockdowns. Specifically, they stated that if they get a call for a curfew violation, they will simply not respond. If they and they will also not use curfew violations or lockdown violations as probable cause for any search or detention of any person. So, good.
That's because it's not probable cause.
Exactly.
You can't have violating an illegal law is not probable cause.
That was their more politically more political way of saying we're just not going to do what we're saying, right? So that's good. That is working as it is intended. That the local government and local police force is refusing to follow unconstitutional edicts from a governor who should not be a governor anymore. Now, Governor Newsom is on his 5th recall attempt. They have attempted to recall him 5 times. This is the 5th one, and because
of the threshold, why does it keep failing?
They aren't getting the number of votes required to actually recall him. And it's because the big cities still the diehard Democrats who just believe what the left-wing media says, they haven't suffered enough pain yet to vote for it. Right.
Yeah, but you got that many people are willing to go in, not even in an off election year, just a random time during the year, 5 times. They couldn't wrangle enough people on the other side. Like I imagine the voter turnout on that must have been like 20% of the state. Like it could not have been very high. Like there really wasn't enough Republicans in the other areas. I see in YouTube chat, there's quite a few red areas. Yeah, they're quiet areas though. They're very quiet areas.
So the problem is these Californians deserve what they vote for. This is what they voted for. They voted for a totalitarian Democrat despot to lead their state that has routinely done policies that harm them, and they have continued voting for him. They vote for him in record numbers. The last election, 2018, I believe it was, when he was reelected, he won by a sizable margin. They voted for him, and they deserve what is happening to them because they asked for it, and they refuse to recall him on this 5th attempt so far. Now, they have 2 options. Either they can vote for change because they're being mistreated, or they can leave. But I'm sorry, you got what you voted for. I definitely will. I agree with you. This is wrong. I will call out what they are doing in California is horribly wrong. But I'm sorry, I can't change it. You asked for this. You got what you asked for. What can I do? I can warn you all day, but I can't change what you vote for.
Well, they also want you to pay for it.
I refuse to pay for it. The California government has been asking to be bailed out by the federal government. Fuck you. No. You don't make us pay for your poor choices. So the COVID lockdown protests, they had a massive protest, and by massive I mean not as big as Antifa protests, but they had a large protest in Huntington Beach, California, against the Newsom and against the lockdowns. But again, the turnout for that protest, that I called it large, was really nothing compared to the Black Lives Matter protests and the Antifa protests, the anti-police riots. They paled in comparison. So there's not enough people who are harmed enough to care to go protest to make a difference yet. So I guess Newsom has to keep hurting them, keep harming their businesses and taking away their jobs to the point where they finally start caring enough to change the way they vote, or to actually go out and vote because they haven't been before. I think there is enough Republicans or conservatives that if they all actually voted, they might be able to change the election. I don't know, but I can tell you the results. Currently, they're not, right? But okay, another thing that recently happened was in Staten Island. There's a bar owner who was arrested for opening his bar that had been shut down by a lockdown in that area. The owner was like, okay, all the businesses in my area, all the dining areas have been shut down completely. But 2 blocks away in a different area, but not only 2 blocks away, different area of the city, they're completely open. So he's like, this makes no sense. The government is picking who can survive and who cannot. They're just going to destroy my bar. Even if we open up now, it still won't save the bar.
Did you see some of the other precautions in the areas that were allowed to stay open in New York, where they, for the coming cold winter, they are creating more amenities for the outdoor patio space and
walls.
Yes, like walls to keep out the cold, and then some roofs to keep off the snow, and then they're also heating it and making sure you put a door on it so you don't get a draft, and sealing in the edges. Yes, they've actually reinvented the building. Yes, it's like outside but inside, because as we all know, we are not allowed to have. It's dangerous to eat a meal inside, but if you're outside inside, then it's safe. It's very safe to do that. It's really great how the left will continuously reinvent things. Well, we need to get rid of the police, but we also need something that will keep the community safe. And it should probably be community funded and maybe appointed by the city, city officials. And, they just reinvent the police. And then you've got this where, you need to eat outside. And, it's cold outside. So we're going to put some walls and a roof around you and seal it up and heat it. And we've reinvented buildings. It's really great.
Dyer's been reading Joseph de Maistre. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I'm sure it's correct, though. He got arrested for opening his bar, and then there was about 2,000 at the highest estimate I saw, down to several hundred by the left-wing media, probably trying to downplay the protest. But the highest estimate was 2,000 protesters came to protest the arrest of this bar owner, who had opened up his bar and was giving out free food for donations. If you wanted to donate, because he was saying that even if he opened up right now, the bar would still fail because he wasn't making any money. So that's one example of a business owner rebelling against the law and getting himself arrested because he was willing to stand up against it, and he probably will win in court because the order that he violated was not a law in the first place, and it was not constitutional even if it was a law. So it could never be a law. Another restaurant owner in Sherman Oaks in LA County is currently protesting and did a video that went viral. And if you wouldn't mind playing that video here in a second, this woman had her business shut down, and her business, her outdoor area that she had worked to prep to meet the current lockdown instructions, it wasn't allowed to be open. But the state and the city had authorized the construction of a large tented eating area in the same parking lot 50 feet away from her outdoor patio eating area. And that was for the
well, you always do this before we watch a video. Just watch the video. People can see what you're talking about. You always go through describing the entire video before you watch the video.
Okay, watch the video then. Jeez.
Tell me that this is dangerous. But right next to me is a slap in my face.
Upset, frustrated, and fed up, the owner of Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill, Angela Marsden, couldn't believe what she saw next to her shut-down patio today.
Losing everything. Everything I own is being taken away from me. And they set up a movie company right next to my outdoor patio.
Because of recent LA County health orders, Marsden was forced to shut down her outdoor dining patio, which she says she spent close to $80,000 building and making COVID compliant. So she was furious to find the city would allow a video production company to put up the same outdoor dining setup for its crew.
You can't eat here, but you can walk in the same parking lot 15 feet and you can eat al fresco if you're on a movie set, because I guess COVID doesn't go over there, right?
Under the county's guidelines, video and music production is deemed essential. Many production crews also test employees frequently. But Marsden says this isn't about the entertainment industry. She feels restaurants are being unfairly targeted by county health orders.
I was in a massage room with a masseuse, and that's allowed to be open. And then I come here and they're allowed to eat in the same setup that I have, and I'm closed.
And the Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill, which has been a Sherman Oaks staple for more than 40 years, is on the brink of shutting down for good.
If I'm not open by February, I will no longer be here. My restaurant cannot open for to-go. What little money we have, I have to try to hold on to for the hopes that we'll get to go to outdoor dining again, which is why I'm fighting so hard.
Tonight, Marsden, along with several industry friends, made signs for a protest they plan to hold tomorrow. She's hoping county leaders will hear the devastation so many restaurants are now facing.
We need your help. We need somebody to do something about this.
And the fight to reopen dining has gone to court.
All right. I think it's hilarious that a video production company is considered essential. Not that I think that the government should be picking what is or is not essential and determining what should be open or what should be closed. That, of course, I don't accept that as a premise, but I do think it's funny.
Well, as it turns out, we live in under free market, not an authoritarian regime, although, I guess if some people want to vote for that. And as it turns out, the government does not have the power to deem activity as essential or non-essential, as allowed or not allowed. They don't have the ability to do that, actually, within the boundaries of existing law. Obviously, that's not covered universally. There's certain things you can't do, but, just deciding that, well, you can't eat here, but you can eat there. You're not allowed to just make that distinction, actually, as it turns out. And apparently that is a super blue area in California. So yep. I would imagine that lady moved there because she enjoyed the politics there. You certainly don't move to California because you don't enjoy the politics. And I said this a while ago, and I think I'm going to stand by it. This story is, before I'm willing to feel bad for her, I would like to know who she voted for. I have to ask that question now of these blue areas. These blue areas have so destroyed themselves and are so desperately attempting to destroy my area that if I'm going to watch their citizens collapse in on themselves, I need to know if those citizens are on my side or if they're the ones that in other circumstances would be just so happy to vote for my way of life to be destroyed. So, I mean, and again, I've said this a few times, the kind of check valve on some of this liberal policy is that it destroys their cities to the point where they lose their voter base. Though I guess it doesn't really matter anymore. You just fabricate a new voter base.
Or import it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I recognize and will call out the injustice that's happening to her, and I think that she probably should leave because this is not the only way she's being harmed by the current government, and she should definitely, if she's choosing to stay, be voting against it. And I would like to know if she did. It really would matter how exactly I feel about her. But I mean, this has to happen. The sad thing is, people like her are going to have to suffer for them to be willing to change. Right? That's how the government is going to be held accountable. Is people will have to actually start caring. And right now, when I see 60% of California voting for Newsom in the last election, I'm like, okay, not enough people care.
Yeah, certainly.
So you should probably leave.
Yeah, no, I mean, no. So someone like that who's one way or another, she's been able to acquire resources and start her own business. It's always an admirable trait, but I have to presume, based on where she lives, that she is left-wing and has voted for and encouraged the people who are now oppressing her. And she would, if besides COVID, she would be just so happy to see that kind of oppression and destruction in a red state, a flyover state, destroying the auto industry, destroying coal miners, destroying oil industry. I'm sure she's just so happy to see that. But now that it's in her area, oh no, stop that. Stop the presses. And her voting for a policy that has destroyed her business and has destroyed her ability to
Be gone
gain more
from me,
resources.
soy boy beta cock. The transaction is complete.
Here's some money in the name of capitalism.
Well, thank you very much, the Infidel. Infidel gave us $20. Much
Thank you.
appreciated. We'll do it for the money for you, man. Thank you.
All the stuff we had at the beginning of the show is out the window. We're not doing it for the $20.
Yes, absolutely. So but the idea that she's voted for policies that have destroyed her ability to gather more resources, more money that she could then use to endorse the same kind of politicians. There's some justice in that. If her ideology is so awful that it has destroyed her ability to support that ideology, that's great. That's the system working as intended. So I can't necessarily be sad about her losing her business in a blue area.
Again, we don't know what she voted for, but I do have a feeling from her other complaints she made, because her complaint initially wasn't the lockdown. Her complaint wasn't a principal position against just shutting down businesses. Her complaint was that Newsom wasn't giving them money during the lockdown, which makes me think that she might have supported Newsom if he just gave her money, and not is not opposed based on principle on what he's doing regardless of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think that she might actually be a voting Democrat.
Well, I think in a different era, a media, an interviewer might ask her who she voted for and report on that. I think that's highly relevant information these days. Again, the left, their main currency is sympathy. And there are people who deserve sympathy. There are people who deserve to have you feel bad and wish better for them. And then there's people who do this to themselves, and there's so many people doing that to themselves these days that I'm not going to fall into the trap of, just because she's declared herself a victim, think, oh, well, she's a victim and she did nothing to deserve it. I don't know, in these lefty areas, these blue areas, maybe they deserve to be victims of their own voting patterns. So I can't. You're right, Dar. We don't know one way or the other, but I until otherwise am informed, I have to assume that when you're from an area that blue, you probably supported it.
Yeah, you know what? There's also the aspect that a state that will institute policies that are bad for business and harm business owners doesn't deserve to have good businesses. So the local area deserves the outcome.
Yeah, they deserve the loss of tax base. Absolutely.
So this has to happen. I don't want it to happen to anyone, but it has to happen for there to be enough pain for there to be change. Right? There has to be a consequence for your actions, is what I'm saying. And not wishing anything upon her, right? But this is the consequence for the actions. That has to happen.
Yep.
Alrighty. Okay. Next part of the story is where's your part end?
I can just read the part I got right here. So basically what we've got in California right now, and we've got this in a lot of other states, is they have an undeclared martial law.
Yes.
And the real problem with martial law, apparently, and what we're seeing now, is that the real problem with it isn't martial law itself, because the Democrats seem to love that. It's just the branding. You just got to call it something else, like public health, that is perfectly fine to implement martial law. It's just a branding problem, guys. It's marketing. And this is martial law, what they're doing in California. It's by definition, which the definition of martial law is maybe a little overly specific, but it's the suspension of regular law and order under a military regime. And while it's overly specific for places like California and New York, and several other states, it is technically true. You've got state security forces, the police, enforcing executive edicts, which are circumventing the regular legislature. They are meeting all the requirements of what martial law is. You're using state actors of violence, which would be the police. They're the ones authorized to carry out violence on behalf of the state, and they are implementing and enforcing laws that were created outside of the legislature. It's martial law.
Hey, let's compare the two types of martial law that are being discussed here. So on the left, they are forcibly keeping people in their homes, telling them they can't go to restaurants, telling them they can't have their businesses open, arresting them if they try doing that, if they try traveling, try buying things, or they try living their lives. They're letting people, by force of government, starve and lose their homes, and preventing them from going to school. That is their martial law. And the martial law they're accusing Trump of doing is ensuring a new election is given federal oversight with and protected by federal police forces to ensure that there is a fair and transparent election. That's what they're accusing him of doing.
Diabolical.
That is the martial law. Yes, it is martial. It is by definition a type of martial law. It is going in and taking over the election process federally, because the state process was so ripe with fraud and errors that they couldn't operate their own elections fairly. Yes, it is a type of martial law, but it is not going in and causing the harm and the violation of rights that the Dems have been doing. So, going back to the story, so we have another report.
Well, we also found out this week, last week, we found out what Biden's super secret plan was to stop COVID. Now the whole election cycle leading up to this, the last year, Biden's been saying he's got a secret plan.
He's going to follow the science,
Yes, he's going to follow the science, and he's got a plan. He's got a plan, guys. He's not ready to release it
He's
yet.
He's going to take action. Where Trump refused to take action, he's going to take action.
So we finally found out what the plan was this week. It is, wait for it. It's super secret. He's going to stop COVID. Biden says he will ask Americans to wear masks for the first 100 days of his presidency.
Right. That's the secret pill for killing COVID. He's going to ask people politely for 100 days to wear masks.
Now, contrary to what the media tells you, mask compliance is pretty high right now, even in places where it's not mandated. You guys can kind of like take the temperature yourself, but wherever you're at, do you normally see people out and about in public with masks? I do. Almost everywhere I go has got masks on. We wear them at work. I see them at the store and all that places too. And that's not stopped. And we also have places where they had much higher mask compliance requirements in other countries. And that hasn't seemed to stop the spread at all. COVID is for maybe it's lack of lethality, certainly as per what it was originally thought to be. It didn't quite live up to that hype. It is a little more lethal than some other stuff out there, but it is extremely virulent. It is extremely contagious. And we've not seen masking having any kind of effect on it. Not any more so than it already is. So this idea that Biden's going to be asking Americans to wear masks for 100 days. What? You heard me?
Oh, I muted that. I thought you didn't hear me. I heard something crash in the background.
It's not that it's crazy that you would ask people to wear masks. It's not that nobody wants to wear masks. People are already wearing masks. It's not. Yeah. It's a null order. Like if I told Dyer to get on the show and do a show with me, it's not like. He's already on the show with me. It's not like I've not done
taking
anything.
Action.
Yes. I'm telling him to do something he's already doing. Like it doesn't change any of the variables. If you want to slow down the spread, you have to actually change variables. If the variable you're changing is the same, then you're not going to slow the spread.
Ridiculous. And it's the same thing that Trump has already done. So he was saying he's going to take new novel action that Trump refused to do. That's why we should vote for him. And Trump asked people to wear masks a long time ago. After, of course, he told them not to. And then he told them to because he was following what Fauci was saying, right? But he currently, for a long period of time, more than 100 days, has been suggesting people wear masks. And people have been wearing masks. So Biden is doing essentially nothing. That is his plan. Nothing.
Which I think will sum up the presidency.
Well, I don't think he's going to be president for very long. I think what will sum up his presidency will be Kamala Harris.
Well, that's the later part. Save that.
Okay. Another thing.
Finish up.
Okay. Another thing going on right now, which is only not related to this at all, but it was actually related to the previous section, and I misplaced it, was that Edward Snowden has asked Trump via Twitter to pardon Julian Assange, and Tulsi Gabbard has publicly called, as far as not only just Tulsi Gabbard, but Tulsi Gabbard is one of the biggest people calling for Trump to pardon Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. So both individuals have published government secrets in a more responsible way, not just releasing everything, but trying to show what some illegal things that the American government via the military has been doing. So this would be a major FU to the intel agencies who have been doing those illegal things that were, revealed by Snowden and Julian Assange. Those same intel agencies who spent the last 4 years trying to destroy Trump and everyone around him. This would be a major FU to them, though throughout the last 4 years, Trump actually has criticized both Snowden and Assange. I believe he may have called them traitors in some way, shape, or form. But according to Pew, as of 2016, about half the country believes what Snowden did was in the best public interest, was good for America.
Yeah, Snowden was fine. Assange is just anti every country, which is fine to have an actor out there like that. But he also now it depends on what we're prosecuting him for. I'm not as aware of that. I'm not as up to date on that case as I probably should be. But I know Assange was also part of the fuck was that tranny's name that leaked all those secrets and got people killed. I mean, that was actually getting stuff published that got people killed and was releasing classified intel that didn't change anything on the board, but it was just releasing names and positions of agents.
That was Manning. Bradley Manning.
But he did that with help from Assange.
Bradley Manning absolutely should have not been pardoned, and Assange should be getting prosecuted for that. I agree.
Yeah. But, so I don't know what he's being prosecuted for, but certainly he deserves it for that. But Snowden went through a lot of effort to make sure that he was not releasing anything that would get someone killed.
Yes, and what he released was very, very important to be brought to light because he was a whistleblower. The government was doing something extremely illegal, violating Americans' civil liberties and rights. And because of the release, there has been some changes, but I don't think that enough has been done to hold the government accountable for what they've done with
they changed the names of the programs and made sure that they didn't have any more people in their midst that have a moral standing.
There's been no follow-up to ensure that this was actually dealt with, and I think that treating him as a criminal rather than a whistleblower is part of the reason for that.
All right, which story do you want to do next? Pick one, and that's it.
Okay, we can always do your story and do the Warpath one on the next.
Yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere. So, alrighty.
We're gonna do the Biden reveals. This is a short one.
Yeah, it's just funny. All right, so Biden gave us a little primer this week as to who was going to be wearing the pants in the Biden administration.
Here's a little hint. It's not him. Yeah. He was wearing the diapers.
You go, Dyer ruining the video again. All right. let's hear it from the horse's mouth himself.
But all kidding aside,
the first lady-to-be told me she holds them for you.
Yes, she does. But not with she and Kamala have become friends. Yeah. But all kidding aside, it's a matter of the thing. We are simpatico on our philosophy of government and simpatico on how we want to approach these issues that we're facing. And so I don't have, and when we disagree, it'll be just like, so far it's been just like when Barack and I did. It's in private. She'll say, I think we should do A, B, C, or D. And I'll say, I like A, don't like B and C. Mm-hmm. And it's go, okay. And I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign. We don't have that. We haven't, and we discussed at length our views on foreign policy, on domestic policy, on intelligence. And the great thing is she has a background in the Senate on intelligence, the Intelligence Committee. She has a background in the Senate on a whole range of things that are going to be pertinent to what we have to do. But it's going to be, I think so much is going to be incoming, Jake. Yeah. It's a matter about who takes what when.
Yeah. I don't need to tell you, Mr.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone told Biden, but he's the one at the top of the ticket. It wouldn't be Kamala proposing A, B, and C and him approving one of them. It would be him proposing A, B, and C and her disagreeing with him. And if they did disagree, why would Biden be the one that resigns?
And I also thought it was funny that the way of resigning isn't to say, I can't be a part of an administration that is doing A, B, and C because I fundamentally disagree with it. Yeah. I'm going to lie to the American people and tell them I have a disease that I don't really have just as an excuse to leave, which, by the way, again, it's hilarious that the idea of him as the president saying, I'm going to leave and let Kamala take over because I disagree with something she's proposing to me.
It was not a really great endorsement for him to say that Kamala and him have a lot in common for foreign policy. Kamala should have been like, well, no, I'm actually right more often than you are. Like that was a pretty underhanded insult to Kamala to say that she agrees with Biden on foreign policy quite often. I also thought it was kind of funny that he said that she had a background in intelligence because we've seen her speak.
I don't think either of them have any background in intelligence at all.
They do have a background in racism and slavery, though.
I know they do both. They're on the same page there with enslaving black and brown people. Yeah, they are both in favor.
So a president that will roll over with a fake disease and leave the presidency on the off chance, on the good chance that he will disagree with his vice president at some point, he's just going to roll over and leave. That's probably the type of submissiveness that you can expect from him on foreign policy as well.
He's made multiple slips, by the way. This is not the first one of him basically saying that he expects to not be the president for very long. He expects to step down and have her take over. He's just making statements that because I think he's obviously senile. He's saying the quiet part out loud. He keeps doing that. And I think it's fairly obvious that was what's going to happen. Mark my words. If he becomes president, he won't be president for very long. And we'll have our first female president. Hooray.
Yes, I think there's some other asterisks in there. Biden's also been like selecting his would-be cabinet, and they're doing a lot of. We got some females, we got some gay guys, we got some
not enough Hispanics. So apparently they're really upset about that.
Yes, not enough Hispanics. No word on qualifications. They are trying to match up the palette though. In the you painting your house, you get a book of colors. His cabinet's probably gonna look like my mom's house. Or it's the 50 Shades of Beige. Everything was like a shade of beige, and so that's gonna be Biden's administration. His cabinet will be very colorful.
I watched CNN recently, and the anchor, or sorry, one of the people on the panel they brought in said a bunch about how Biden's his cabinet from the first 4 picks shows it's going to be the most diverse and qualified. But when they went in to talk about all them, they just talked about their demographics and it said nothing about their qualifications. So.
Well, and you look at people like Kamala, and I'd imagine they selected his cabinet the way that he selected Kamala, is she's got nothing about her other than her skin color and I guess what's ever in her pants. That's the only thing about her that is of any note. And it's not even really that noteworthy because, surprise, surprise, there's a lot of people that are that color and packing that kind of equipment. The Democrats have made this into like some kind of like special status, but there's, I guess for people like Kamala who are otherwise have nothing noteworthy about them other than her top few layers of skin and what's in her pants. That's that's gotta be pretty embarrassing that you have nothing of note.
Shadow Wolf is right. I was alluding to that the demographics are the qualifications to Democrats. Yes. I know that, but we have a double standard here, right? So the Republicans, they're expected, and they do for good reason, when they pick somebody for a position, they go over in great detail their history, their qualifications, and what they've done, their accomplishments, what they've achieved in their life that would justify why they should have this job. And if a Republican doesn't do that, like in the case where Trump, he actually did appoint a judge who had never been a judge before, right? He had done scholarly articles, but had never been sitting as a judge. And people criticized Trump for that, rightfully so, because you had appointed someone who's never done the job to a very important version of that job. So Republicans are held to that standard where they need to have whoever they pick have qualifications, and then they're also criticized when they don't have the demographics on top of that, right? Well, but the Democrats are never required to.
Well, no. So and when the Republicans do pick somebody who's a minority of some kind, they get told that they're tokenizing. Oh, you just got them so that we don't think that you're racist, no matter how well qualified they are. You got who's the HUD secretary guy? He ran for president. What's his name? The doctor. Doctor.
God damn it.
God, we're really off tonight.
We're going to go this direction.
Yeah, but you got you pick any minority that's a right-leaning minority, and the left.
Ben Carson.
They will always say, "You didn't figure that out. Infidel figured that out." Thank you. Infidel.
I googled it.
Any of them, and the left will say, "Oh, they're just tokenizing. It's tokenizing. You just got a black friend, so that it just looks like you're not racist." Well, the Republicans are like, no, he's actually very well qualified for this position. Like, here's a laundry list of resume stuff. You do that for, again, anyone on the right that's a minority. And then on the left, They will pick people who have absolutely no qualifications and say specifically the only reason that they got selected was because of their race or their gender, because of their minority status, not because of anything that they're qualified to do. And that's not tokenizing, in their opinion, when it's literally the definition of tokenizing. That you're tokenizing when you're only selecting on the criteria of race or gender so that it looks like you're not racist. to clean up Biden's image of being an actual racist, he hired I don't know, is she a black woman, an Indian woman, or Native American, or whatever the hell she is? He hired her just so it looked like he wasn't racist,
which just makes him more racist.
And then you've got there was a video of one of his cabinet, one of the people on the short list for a cabinet position, who is in last week in New York was leading a protest against the COVID lockdowns. It was like, Biden, you're gonna have it's gonna be a rough one with that one.
Oh wow. I can't believe it is definitely a clown world that we elected this guy. But even if it's thrown out and Trump wins, just the fact that this guy apparently is more popular than Obama. That this guy has gotten the most votes that any president has ever gotten, and this guy is a complete. He's senile, and
it should be remembered that Joe Biden, for all of his faults, is far more popular and charismatic than Obama is. I do think that of all the things, that needs to be remembered and shouted from the rooftops and told to all of your liberal friends, be like, isn't it crazy how Biden is so much more charismatic than Obama, that he got 12 million more votes than he did?
He was picked as the VP for Obama because he was so silly and non-threatening that he was like a blank slate, right? That would have no effect on Obama's candidacy. He was a throwaway, not he wasn't brought on for his qualifications or anything he would actually bring to the discussion. He was sidelined constantly because the only times he ever gave public statements, he always said dumb things. I think it's funny that the B-lister backbencher for Obama's presidency was elected as president, possibly. It's cloud world.
Yeah, that's what the Democrats wanted. All right, guys. Well,
yeah, this is another show. We'll see you guys Wednesday, probably, right?
We'll see. So
I'll say.
Yeah, Diana and I are still both very busy with our day jobs. One way or the other, we will both become less busy about a month from now, maybe.
Yeah, you know what I'm busy with is we'll see you guys more often soon.
Mine's less classified. I got a lot of
yeah.
I got a lot of so some of you guys know I recently took on a much larger position at my company due to a bad actor within the company stealing stuff and doing bad things, and I am now in charge of an entire department. It's very fun and exciting, and little more work than what I not necessarily more work than what I normally do, but a lot different kind of work than what I normally do. But we are working on finding a replacement for the position soon, and then I can lead them in the department and not just be the entire department. Because by being the head of the department, I really mean I'm just the only person left in the department. So technically I'm the leader, but it's it's hard when I have to do this stuff. Yeah,
so at least we'll see. Sorry,
go ahead.
So at least we'll see you guys on Saturday. Yes. Now, if you guys want to, I will spend a small amount of time on VC, the voice chat on Discord, which is like below, maybe. I don't know, maybe. Yeah. For a little bit after the show. So, but I can't tell you what I'm doing. I'm just really busy currently with work. So see you guys. Dire Wolf out.
Treviz signing off. Thank you guys. See y'all next week.
You guys are awesome. We appreciate it.